following video is one in a series on spiritual resilience training, a non-religious view of personal values and their dynamics with others. The contents reflect a variety of principles and practices of systems theory and relational counseling for team building and family resilience. Although the series is intended to support Army Corps values, each video also encourages the viewer to reflect on their current prominent values in specific situations and to consider what values may be more appropriate to means and results that are honorable and helpful with others. Chaplain Dillard initiates creating and posting these videos. Their contents and YouTube's linked videos do not necessarily reflect specific beliefs, practices, requirements, or endorsements of the Department of Defense, its subordinate organizations, or other groups with which Chaplain Dillard is affiliated.
Welcome back. In an earlier video we considered how group values are formed, and we really panned back for a kind of telescopic view of the big picture that could apply to an entire generation like the millennials or baby boomers or Gen X people or anyone else, but can also be applied at a smaller level for organizational work teams, families, or others. Today I'd like to zoom in a little more and give you a microscopic tool specifically on the family. Again, the goal is to become more self-aware, especially of the values that have come to us unconsciously oftentimes, so that we can consciously choose what is most appropriate and helpful to us in our teams. This is called a genogram, and I'll let you pause the video if you'd like. I'm going to go through this somewhat quickly. You see all the details there that can be incorporated. I'll explain the legend in a moment. At the top, the squares are guys, the circles are girls, and we're going at least 3 generations here: grandparents, parents, and then you and your spouse if you're married, and even your children under that. Typically I use this in a counseling setting when someone comes to me because of a concern and they're kind of stuck. They can't quite tell why this is a problem in their family or in them individually, where it's come from. And many times it's helpful to look and see how issues of values or beliefs or habits or anything else has been unconsciously passed down, because like soup, they were raised in it, and like any vegetable or potato or anything else in the soup, they begin to absorb those things because they've been sitting in it for 20 years. Let's go through this somewhat quickly, but you can pause it as much as you like. I usually start off with the grandparents. Here we'll do the immediate family. This guy's name is Tony. I'm making these up to protect those who are suffering, but this is an actual family that I spent time with years ago. And Tony presented his concern for anxiety and sleeplessness on Sunday nights. His parents, and the reason I capture the ages is to see how old the parents were when he was born, how far apart they are in age, and also siblings, to see what type of relationships they have, and we go through their genogram as well to confirm if there are generational patterns. The dotted line on the left indicates he's not as close to his dad. Doesn't mean it's a bad relationship, but just not very close. But is pretty close to his mom, and these are things that Tony has indicated to me. I always ask, what does the father do, or did he do, for a living? In this case, he is self-employed. And I ask, is that always what he did? No, he used to be a former musician. I ask when they left home and why, because this tells me something about their generation above them. And if they have education, how much education, and the size of their family. In this case, the GM means he was raised by his grandmother. I ask the same questions about the mom to see if there's great differences in any of those. You can see, for example, that Frank left in his 20s, Tony's guessing, to play in the band. His mom left when she was 16 for greater independence. Tony was also an only child, Frank was an only child. Ellen was from a larger family and a hard-working farm family. The parentheses is a symbol that I use. It's not typical of genograms, to indicate closeness on a scale of 1 to 3. And 1 to 10. And Tony indicates about his entire family that the closeness on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is extremely low, 10 is very, very close. And I don't tell them if that's good or bad, I just let them choose. Tony indicated a 3, which is someone on the low side of closeness. On flexibility, like you would bend something, is the symbol there. He says, oh, we were very flexible. On a scale of 1 to 10, we were an 8. I asked about patterns of conflict resolution. When your mom and your dad had an issue, how did they resolve it? And he says, well, Dad just kind of avoided the problem by making jokes, and Mom just went back to work and worked harder. I asked if there was any trauma, and the explosion symbol there indicates any great conflicts or trauma. And they said yes. We grew up in a family business where we had to manage this deli together, and Mom and Dad always said, smile for the customers. So Tony says as soon as he was able to make change, he's working. So no matter whether he's having a good day or a bad day, he's got to pretend to be happy so that others can be happy when they come in to buy a sandwich. The triangle there, I asked if there was any pivotal time when the family could have gone one way or the other, and Tony didn't know. He said, it's just always kind of been that way. I've never known anything else. He was kind of on autopilot all the time. When I asked if he could name one word or one thing that the family loved, and I don't use the word values because people define it differently, Tony said work. You've got, not that we really enjoy work, but you have to work. You've just got to get it done. Work is one of the most important things that you can do. When I asked him about a belief, which is the scroll there, if your family were to say that one thing is true, no matter what anybody else tells you, what is that one thing? And he says, if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. Because they were a self-employed family and everything did depend just on them. When I asked him to describe his relationship with his dad, he says they love each other very much, but he wished that they talked more. Dad was very quiet. They don't live physically close anymore, and he wishes that they could be closer. He says he and his mother are very close, and he wished that they did live closer. And that's just one generation. That's Tony and his brothers that we haven't gone into, and his parents. And if we were to go into Frank's parents, let's see, for your side, Frank's parents and Ellen's parents, up above them 3 generations, and even down into his siblings, you would begin to see some patterns. You would begin to see, and I'll just tell you, almost a workaholism, no conflict resolution, no rest, no close relationships because they were working all the time, even in the different generations on both sides. High productivity. So work is highly valued, but there's no balance in the life. There's no balance of real connection, not just a polished product at work, but being able to be real with people in your leisure time and at work. So Tony is concerned that, wow, I tried to rest, I got 2 days, I can't really rest because now I got to go back to work, be productive, smile, put on a face, and be somebody that I'm not, namely perfect. So you can see how this value has been passed down in his family of work, which is a good value. But how about values of honesty? How about values of acceptance from others? How about values of forgiving himself when he's not able to be perfect? All those are values too. So you see that as we begin to chart or graph through the generations, and all these things hang together, right? They all play off of each other. But when we become aware of that process in the family over the generations, then we're better able to choose. And Tony can still value work, and I think he still does, but he's begun to value other things that are more appropriate for the weekend, and in some relationships that are more trustworthy, where he can be more himself, and he's able to sleep better on Sunday nights and have less anxiety. Hopefully that's helpful to you. I will see you next time.
At the release date of this video, I am stationed with Research Development and Engineering Command, RDECOM, at Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. Because the majority of our personnel are in this area, I spend most of my time here. I do, however, travel to our distant units based on command priorities and budget. I place these videos on YouTube for broad visibility to Army personnel and their families. but I hope the videos will be helpful to others too. If you are assigned to RDECOM and want to request specific topics by video, training on site or by VTC, or confidential counseling on site or by secure webcam, you can contact me at jeffrey.d.dillard.mil@mail.mil.